outside a residence hall last week. He was robbed, stabbed, and suffered a concussion. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Score big on sleep and savings during Mattress Firm's best sale of the year. Save up to $700 on select Tempur-Pedic adjustable beds and get a $300 instant gift. Good towards pillows and more.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
It looks like former USC star Reggie Bush is willing to make his lawsuit against the NCAA a civil rights issue. At a press conference yesterday at the Coliseum, Bush announced his plans to sue the NCAA for defamation of character. By his side was noted civil rights attorney Ben Crump, who Bush hired to lead his legal team. Crump has a ton of experience with high-profile cases after representing the families of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Trayvon Martin. Bush said the NCAA made false allegations about him when the organization claimed he had a play-for-pay arrangement at USC from 2002 to 2005. The NCAA stripped Bush of his Heisman Trophy and his collegiate records after learning he had access to improper benefits while at USC. There's a whole lot more to this story. Stay tuned. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is dedicated to empowering our communities by providing progressive talk radio for our audience. We strive to be an intersectional voice for the voiceless. As a Black-owned and operated station, we are committed to highlighting diverse perspectives and creating safe spaces for meaningful dialogue. We believe that everyone has something unique to bring to these political, economic, social, and cultural conversations, and we don't shy away from the hard conversations about current events. We endeavor to be a beacon of hope and understanding, while boldly challenging listeners to think more deeply about difficult topics that impact us all. With this in mind, our mission statement at KBLA Talk 1580 is simple: to create an inclusive platform that promotes civil discourse through honest dialogue and encourages personal growth among our listeners, so they can become the active agents of change. Our vision is to establish ourselves as the premier radio network with relevant programming across the beloved community, connecting people through shared experiences and collective power for lasting impact beyond these challenging times.
You see me heavy work. You see me do me dirt. So me better work. When you walk a line. I'm in the cafe, my drive me a dessert. No time to have you lurking. You make a like, now you don't like it. You know I dealt with you the nicest. Nobody touched me in the righteous. Nobody text me in a crisis. I believed all of your dreams are duration. You took my heart, all my keys, and my patience. You took my heart, I must leave a decoration. You mistaken my love, I brought for you for foundation. All that I wanted from you was to give me something that I never had, something that you never seen, something that you never been. But I wake up and nothing's wrong. Just get ready for work.
KBLA Talk 1580. Yep, work. So happy to welcome into the space this morning. She's a professional speaker. She's an entrepreneur. She's got a Ph.D. in women's history from the University of Southern California. And she is the author of 3 books. The most recent is called Emotional Labor: Why a Woman's Work is Never Done and What to Do About It. Dr. Regina Lark, welcome.
Thank you so much. I love this show. I've been listening, and I love the message and meaning of this station. So it's very cool for me to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. Appreciate the props because we are the only Black-owned talk radio station west of the Mississippi, and I think there's a reason there's only 5 of them in the whole country, while thousands of these conservative, old-school, oppressive stations message all day long and say what they say, but we got this. Dr. Clark, when I heard about your book, I was excited because this is one of my refrains. I have certain, I don't want to call them talking points. They're really like choruses. They're things that, observations that I've made or missions that I'm on that I feel like do not get enough conversation in the world, certainly in the public supposed intellectual discourse. And one of those is all of the massive amount of unpaid labor that women do in this country, without which the whole thing collapses. Of course, I'm talking about childcare, I'm talking about housework, I'm talking about elder care, all of these things. Like if the country was paying for all this labor, women would be a lot richer, and the country budgets for our national and state operations would be a lot different.
Tell it. I mean, I think the last statistic I read that if every single homemaker walked off the job, to replace her would be about $150,000 to $180,000 a year. I mean, and I don't know if that actually includes overtime.
You're talking about just for the labor that each individual
in the
household labor. Yeah, I mean, I think about that because you really you never go off the clock, and then I think like, nope. Okay, so without getting too specific. If you were going to replace me and everything I was doing as a mom, you'd have to hire a housekeeper, you'd have to hire a chauffeur, a shrink, probably a nurse, a chef.
Well, and then you have to break down, well, what the heck is homemaking? It's housekeeping sounds like somebody is keeping a house. When I think of laundry, sort, wash, dry, fold, put away, birthday cards, thinking about getting it on the calendar, going to the store, buying the card, addressing and mailing the card. I mean, there are so many invisible steps to the task of homemaking and on housekeeping, and it's usually primarily on the shoulders of one adult in the household, which is ludicrous.
And why is that always the woman?
Oh, how much time do you have?
The rest of my life.
Well, okay. From where I sit, this is what happened. Right after the fighting stopped, after the American Revolution, as it's called, the founders of the country said, okay, we're going to grow this great nation. Who's going to lead us? And they hemmed and they hawed and they thought about it and they thought, good leaders need to come from a well-ordered home. Future leaders need to understand thriftiness and sobriety and leadership and how do they learn these types of ways of being? Well, they're going to learn it from their mama. They're going to learn it from living in a well-ordered home. And the term Republican motherhood lands on the shoulders of women 250 years ago. So it's almost as if the weight of the republic falls on the shoulders of women because they alone are responsible for shaping the minds of the future leaders of the country. Now, this type of work for women was started toward women who really didn't have to think much of, and I'm speaking very, very broadly. I know lives have always been hard for women, but let's talk about a quote unquote white middle class. You're home, you're taking care of the kids, and you're shaping the future leaders of the country. Well, that sentiment of women's roles and responsibilities went well beyond the white middle class household and was heaped upon the shoulders of sharecroppers and of slave families and of immigrant families. It was women are responsible for shaping the future leaders of their community or of their home or of their, so that sentiment, from what I can see, has never gone away. And as a result of that, we continue to raise girls into women to notice and do the myriad tasks that are associated with what is called household management, but what a lot of people refer to as women's work. And you don't need a particular body part to get this work done. What you really need are good cognitive executive functioning skills. And yet we heap this work upon one person's shoulder.
You know, the family's changing. The world is supposedly changing. When we come forward, I want to talk about whether or not this so-called women's work is changing, or these family expectations and systems are changing with the world. Also want to go back a little bit to what is emotional labor. What does that mean? Look at that and more when we come forward. And you're welcome in 800-920-1580. We are KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
Need help with the job hunt? It can be challenging, but don't worry. LA County has your back. With a variety of available support services, you'll get the help you need while finding a job. We're here to help you succeed. Let's get started. Find out if you qualify at recovery.lacounty.gov/programs. That's recovery.lacounty.gov/programs. LA County and you moving forward together.
Don't settle for bumps, ingrowns, and itch due to dry skin. Venus for Pubic Hair and Skin is here with the only razor and regimen specifically designed for your pubic area, featuring a razor with a patented irritation defense bar and skincare regimen that is dermatologist and gynecologist tested. Venus helps protect your pubic skin from shave irritation. Visit GilletteVenus.com to learn more about our full regimen of products.
Labor Day savings start now at Lowe's. Get up to an additional $1,500 off select major kitchen appliances. And save $100 off select laundry pairs, priced $1,396 or more. Plus, pick up the latest DeWalt PowerStack 20-volt max 5 amp hour battery kit and get a select Bear tool free. Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid through 8/30. Appliance savings vary based on purchase amount. Exclusions apply. See Lowe's.com for details. While supplies last.
Dominique DePrima for KBLA Talk 1580. Are you worried about your credit score? Well, look, you can rebuild it. There are lots of factors that go into determining your credit score, but one of the most effective ways to improve your score is to consistently pay your bills on time, over time. If you're forgetful about payments like me, try automating your bill payments. That way all your creditors get paid on time and you'll have freed yourself of trying to remember. Whatever your financial goals, U.S. Bank Access Commitment Initiatives can help support you in reaching them. Access your financial goals at usbank.com/access. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Be ready for extreme heat in your area. On days when extreme heat is expected, take action to keep your home as cool as possible. Set your air conditioner to 78 degrees. If AC isn't available, close blinds and curtains on all windows and run fans counterclockwise. Or find your nearest cooling center. Transportation help may be available. Learn more at heatreadyca.com. Brought to you by the state of California.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
And I think it's a critical conversation, but today's episode of First Things First is brought to you by Wealth Management Financial Advisors, offering tax services, financial planning, and more. If you have a nonprofit organization and your books are a little shaky, I definitely would suggest you check out Wealth Management Financial Advisors, wealthmanagementlb.com. That's wealthmanagementlb.com. My guest this hour, Dr. Regina Lark, asked you, I should have probably started with this, but what is emotional labor, and how is our sort of, how are our expectations changing as we say our society is changing?
Oh, how much time do you have?
I know, big questions.
Oh, my gosh. Well, emotional labor is the unseen, invisible, unnoticed, unacknowledged, unpaid work that's being done in every space, from home to the paid workplace. The work is the thinking about what needs to happen, what's coming up, how to anticipate birthdays, holidays, family dinners, school permission slips. You know, it's thinking about what needs to happen, and it's happening chronically through your day. You're not even recognizing how pervasive it is because you're always in thinking mode about what the hell needs to happen and when.
Yeah.
So and the invisible nature of it makes it very hard for the person who is carrying that weight to even recognize, not only they recognize the weight of it because quite honestly they're exhausted, but they're not recognizing why the hell does this feel so heavy? Because after all, it's putting the dishes away. But it's also making sure there's dish soap and making sure that there's somebody responsible enough in the household to put the dishes away. And it's getting on the person who's supposed to put the dishes away to put the damn dishes away. I mean, it's this constant thought process that leads to this idea of overwhelm and unappreciated. And, we see a lot of women just sick and tired of being sick and tired.
And you know what? I'm an optimist. I always try to focus on what I want, not what I don't want. I love my job. I love my house, my kid, my dog. That said, I sometimes wonder, like, even with some of my male colleagues on the radio, could you do a radio show if your kid was constantly texting you, asking you where their book bag was? Or if you knew, if you're actually managing a household while you're doing a radio show every single day. And I don't know, it reminds me of Ginger Rogers' quote, she did everything that Fred Astaire did, only backwards in high heels.
Yep.
So, I'm not saying that to complain and bitch. I'm saying it because it's like, well, if we're in a weightlifting competition, but I'm carrying an extra 100 pounds, like, how is that a fair competition?
Right. And that's the idea of equity versus equality. I was asked the other day about this difference between equity versus equality. And one of the things I thought of is that when I look at women's movement over decades, so we have what's called the second wave women's movement in the 70s, 60s, 70s, and early 80s. And the idea was access, breaking through the glass ceiling, having opportunities to become an attorney and go for whatever major you wanted in college and all of that. Access happened, so it looks equal. But the equity piece has not been put in place. And we talk about gender equity in the paid workplace, which is looking at shared duties and responsibilities based on the type of work that individual is doing. We don't have gender equity at home. In fact, we don't have equity at home. So we
don't even have it in the workplace if you look at the pay scales, right?
No, we don't.
White pay equity. But I think it is more pronounced at home. And I know there's probably some men listening right now going, well, I do the birthday cards. I take the kids to school. I lift my fair share. And women, we know that almost all women have jobs now. It's very rare the so-called stay-at-home mom. But I don't know.
That's like the hardest job on the planet.
It is, yeah. I did it for like 10 minutes. It was really exhausting. But my point though is the family structures have changed, right? Our expectations of being in the workplace, and as you point out, opportunities have changed. But has the structure of home life changed in proportion to those work-life differences?
Ask that again in another way.
Okay, well, like you described, whatever it was, the 50s or whatever we were talking about, where the woman's expectation was stay home, take care of the house, and shape the future leaders of the republic. Now it is have a job and bring in, anywhere from 30 to 50 to 100% of the income for that household. Have those other responsibilities been modified? Do we?
No, I think they've increased
Okay.
because of technology, because of expectations about how kids are being raised, because of the whole kid culture and sports and teams and making sure they're off screens and, all the emotional labor, the heavy invisible labor that goes into moderating just kids and screens is huge. And because the job market, we have created these expectations that you're available to your job, your paid work, almost as readily as you're available to your unpaid work at home.
Yeah.
So what I'm noticing is that women are doing what's called the triple day. They go into the office, that's one part. They come home and deal with the management of the household, that's part two. And then from about 10 p.m. to 1 a.m., they're helping deal with the caregiving responsibilities of their elder parents or sending in prescriptions to Amazon for their dad's medication. I mean, it's just because technology creates an opportunity for us to do things 24/7.
Right. In between all that, we're answering emails. But some men are going to say, well, I'm doing that, there are men that are doing that stuff, right?
Absolutely. And they all need to, the good guys really need to step in and start training not the guys who aren't doing this. And here's a really quick and dirty, simple way to gauge what you're all doing at home. Talk about the conversation that they're hearing on your show. Go home and go into separate rooms, and each adult write down everything they believe they do with the household. No filters, no resentment, no finger pointing. If you're the one who is wiping down the top of the fan blades, write it down, right? If you're the one who is always noticing when you're at a catch-up, write it down. Write down everything you believe you do, from the visible to the visible. And then in loving and caring and kind ways, turn to each other and compare the list. That's all. That's all you have to do, is because the nature of the work of household management, because so much of it is invisible, it's difficult for the one who isn't carrying the burden to know how great the burden is.
Yeah. Is the answer to have more equitable division of this emotional labor in families, or is the answer to have our elder care and child care and household management remunerated, whether it's by the society at large, which relies on these human resources, or some kind of fund that's coming out of the corporate sector? I mean, to me, the conversation needs to be about equity and interpersonal relationships and giving credit where credit is due at home. But the way society is structured, I feel like we have a business model that relies on the unpaid labor of mostly women.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we started our conversation saying, if every unpaid woman in doing the work of the household management walks off the job, oh my gosh, the economy would come crashing down in order to shore that up. So my gosh, so how do we outsource? What's the social safety net? There's a really amazing leader out there by the name of Reshma Sojani. And Sojani, during COVID, came up with what's called the Marshall Plan for Moms. And the Marshall Plan for Moms was loosely based on this post-World War II program called the Marshall Plan, which was monies given over to a lot of the countries that had fallen into Nazi hands, and the U.S. was going to shore them up and provide money to replace their infrastructure. So Reshma Sojani's Marshall Plan for Women is how does the country provide these financially and responsible social safety nets in order to outsource caretaking, child care, and those types of things.
I noticed that a portion of the proceeds from your book goes to her organization.
Yeah. I find her absolutely remarkable, and I had followed her all through COVID, and she's naming names and pointing out.
Yeah.
And so many great thought leaders over the last 3 years have really honed in on the problem and coming up with whatever solutions. I mean, we're asking for a cultural. If you say the word men's work, there's all kinds of ideas that come up. What is men's work? Nobody's saying vacuuming. But when you say women's work, there's this global, instant understanding when the reality is you don't need a woman to do the job. You need someone to do the job. You need someone who has the cognitive skills, plan, process, prioritize, produce, to provide feelings of safety and comfort to people in the home, to make us feel noticed and welcome and loved. These are not decidedly female tasks.
Yeah.
But we have decided culturally that they are.
Yeah, and I want to get into some of the solutions that you offer and the different ways that this shows up, this emotional labor when we come forward after news, traffic, and sports. We got a couple minutes here, though, and I think we could maybe spend the time talking about, how we really have to change. Not just change our practices, but change the things we're saying and the narrative, I guess.
So here's a narrative that I would love to disrupt. After a woman has taken time away from her paid work to give birth and start that new part of her life, we hear 6 or 8 weeks later that she's going back to work. What the hell has she been doing for the last 6 or 8 weeks? if not working. So disrupting the narrative about work and calling it work. Changing the language from women's work to household management. If we can look at the household from the perspective of a CEO, with a twist. And the twist would be under this idea of delegating. Because we delegate in the paid workplace, we delegate the work that is to the person most suited to the task. In household management, you probably have to engage in radical delegation, delegating the work to get it done, regardless of who's better at it. We've got to disrupt the that delegation is simply for the person who's best suited at it.
Yeah, right. You do that because you're better at it. We've got news, traffic, and sports, and then we will continue this riveting conversation about emotional work, the emotional work household management, Dr. Regina Lark, and how our society is structured, how we are. It's about time we are changing the narrative. That's what we do around here. KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The Missouri Attorney General is pushing back on St. Louis Mayor African-American Tashara Jones's plans for new gun restrictions. Jones announced Tuesday that a new bill would ban military-grade weapons on city streets. State AG Andrew Bailey said in a letter to her Tuesday night that such plans would violate the state constitution. Labor Day travel is way up compared to last year, especially those going abroad. According to AAA booking data, domestic travel this holiday weekend should be up 4%. Most will leave Thursday or Friday before Labor Day to take advantage of the long weekend. The most popular destinations are typically the Pacific Northwest, bigger cities like New York and Denver, and tourist hotspots like Las Vegas, Nevada, and Orlando, Florida. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Score big on sleep and savings during Mattress Firm's best sale of the year. Save up to $700 on select Tempur-Pedic adjustable beds and get a $300 instant gift, good towards pillows and more.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man. It looks like former USC star Reggie Bush is willing to make his lawsuit against the NCAA a civil rights issue. At a press conference yesterday at the Coliseum, Bush announced his plans to sue the NCAA for defamation of character. By his side was noted civil rights attorney Ben Crump, who Bush hired to lead his legal team. Crump has a ton of experience with high-profile cases after representing the families of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Trayvon Martin. Bush said the NCAA made false allegations about him when the organization claimed he had a play-for-pay arrangement at USC from 2002 to 2005. The NCAA stripped Bush of his Heisman Trophy and his collegiate records after learning he had access to improper benefits while at USC. There's a whole lot more to this story. Stay tuned. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
For all of us, this generation and the next, there is simply no place in our lives for litter. And yet, it's everywhere we look. And unfortunately, it does belong to all of us. So, let's come together and create a litter-free, clean California, once and for all. Remember to properly dispose of your trash and recycling. Secure truckloads with tarps to keep debris from flying out. Clean out your car when you're at a gas station. Take pride in your community by organizing a cleanup event. Or join a cleanup event near you. Zero litter is the goal. Join us at cleanca.com. That's cleanca.com. Let's do it together. Brought to you by Caltrans. cleanca.com.
Support comes from Getty, presenting The Gospel at Colonus, a theatrical event under the stars that reimagines the story of Oedipus. Blending Greek myth with Black spiritual practice, the show follows the blinded Oedipus as he seeks redemption after a lifetime of tragedy. Co-produced by Court Theater, conceived and adapted by Lee Brewer, with music composed by Bob Telson. Thursdays through Saturdays this September at the Getty Villa Museum. Tickets available now at getty.edu.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
Boldly taking talk radio where it has never gone before. New vistas, new voices, new views, new visions, new victories. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we're taking public media black.
Hi, it's Tavis Smiley. KBLA Talk 1580 is inviting you to join us on Saturday, September 16th, 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. for our very first economic empowerment event for the community. This event is free and it's powered by Caltrans. We're doing this in association with Rambo House, and here's Rambo to tell you more.
Contracts. I'm going to say it again for all of us small business owners out there. Contracts. Rambo House, KBLA, Tavis, me. Oh my God, this is going to be massive. I truly thank Caltrans for giving us the opportunity to focus on contracts. Listen, that's what it's all about to be a small business in LA. That's how we hire our own. That's how we expand our community is contracts. KBLA1580.com is for you to have a seat at our contracts-focused event. Contract Ready does it again. We had over 900 last time. So you guys know how exciting this is. And if you just think that you want to get into contracts and you're close to it, bring your friends out for September 16th at the Marriott Hotel. Listen, you know where to register. KBLA1580.com. Come see me. I can't wait to see you. Let's do it, Tavis.
So be sure to go to KBLA1580.com for all the details. We'll see you Saturday, September 16th.
We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
And Dr. Regina Lark is my guest. But as I said, First Things First is brought to you by Wealth Management Financial Advisors. They got tax services, financial planning, help you get on budget, on point, and follow some smart money rules. Find them at wealthmanagementlb.com. So the book Emotional Labor, Why a Woman's Work is Never Done and What to Do About It. I want to get to the what to do about it part before we run out of time. We certainly can spend a lot more effort outlining all the ways this shows up, and I'm hoping we'll sneak that in as well. But let's get to the what to do about it beyond, changing the narrative. Structurally or, on a day-to-day basis, what can we do? I love the list, starting with the list. What else could we do?
And I think the list, first, Dominique, you are such a great interviewer. I love your questions. So
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyway, I love the list because we've got to start from a place of calm and love and kindness, because I'm thinking if folks are at a point of making a list about who's doing what, y'all have been talking about this for a long time and probably arguing. So bringing it down and showing the volume of work that needs to be done. We have to make the invisible visible. And that's a critical step in all of this. It's so critical that if it's skipped, the outcome won't be pretty.
Yeah.
So making the invisible visible, and that's going to start with making these lists. Because I'm going to back up. One thing I've noticed is that the person who's burdened with the bulk of the labor doesn't necessarily recognize how much of the labor is invisible. And that's why it's very hard to articulate why everything is so frustrating. I just did a TED Talk, and I'm reading the comments on the YouTube channel. And there was a lot of guys that said, what's so hard about mailing a birthday card? And so nothing's hard about mailing a birthday card, But it's all the steps that lead to getting that card in the mailbox. So first, making the list, making the invisible visible. Second is to look at this concept of radical delegation. Radical delegation was actually a term coined by my book collaborator, Judith Kohlberg. And radical delegation is this idea that we delegate work to the person just to get it done. Just get it done. So divide and conquer that really long list and get very honest about what you want to do and what you don't want to do.
Right. And so that's boundaries, right? But if what I don't want to do is cook, then my family, what are they going to do?
Well,
if what I don't want to do is wash dishes.
Yeah.
You
have to talk it through because cooking has to happen.
Right.
Dishes have to happen.
Right.
Laundry has to happen. It doesn't have to happen by one person. And so here's a hard task. The person that has traditionally been doing all the work, if that person is going to let go and let the other adult, you just got to let go completely.
Yeah.
You have to, the work, nobody is helping to do the work. They're taking ownership of it. And if it's not being done according to a traditional standard that you have employed as the homemaker, we have to help her find a way to just dial back that control and allow the dishes to get done. If there's a piece of food on the plate that dries when you put it away, no one's going to die as a result. You know what I mean? It's not going to make or break the family. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds silly, but we do get there in our head space. And, the guilt, you mentioned the guilt, right? The mom guilt.
Well, and again, we weren't born with that. That's a cultural ideal. That's, we don't come out of the chute with guilt. Someone has to put that on our head, or we have to take ownership of it.
Yeah.
I wasn't born with the guilt, but if I feel guilty about someone, it's because someone said I should.
As much of a feminist as I am, unabashed and unapologetic feminist and a progressive, I have a ton of guilt. And when you think about it, I feel like I should be perfect. My dishes should always be done. I should always have dinner on the table. That sounds like, I sound like, Donald Trump. But I think those are the trips we lay, those are the trips that we lay on ourselves. But you're right. Where does that come from? And how do we shed it? Not, it's like, if I didn't cook dinner, I'm a slacker. Guess what? We're having takeout.
Yeah, Dominique, I've come to really because of my work as a professional organizer, I've been clearing clutter for 15 years.
Right.
And
so you should be perfect. You should have it all together, right?
Well, there's so many layers to this, and this would engender another really good conversation, because one of the important components of the solution is really coming to understand what it actually takes to get all of this work done. And getting all the work done requires really strong executive functioning skills. And that's the part of the brain that allows us to plan, process, have a good relationship with time. And so when I look at the world through two lenses. First is the lens of executive functions. When I walk into a very messy household, I think, wow, the person or persons responsible for living here probably has lousy time management skills. They have great ideas to want to get it done, but this is what comes out of their mouth. There is no time. I have no time. I'm always out of time. There's never any time. So the word time emerges from their lips all day long. So I see it through the lens of their executive function, but I also look at life through the lens of perception. And what I've learned is that the only thing I can control in my life, on the planet, in my interpersonal relationships, on the job, the only thing I can control is my perception of what's going on. So I'm somebody who doesn't feel guilt because my perception is, well, I really don't have anything to feel guilty about because this is actually what's happening. I see a lot of folks that we declutter, and one woman said, can I let this thing go? And it was her mother's eyeglass case. Her mother had passed. She had a lot of her mother's stuff in the house, and she said, can I let this go? And I thought, how interesting. She's asking me permission to let something go. And what I saw was weak executive functioning skills, that her emotional management, this eyeglass case represented something to her.
Yeah.
Which is also her perception of the meaning of those eyeglasses. So it's very layered in our head, as layered as it is under our bed.
Yes,
which
indeed.
is the basis of my second book, my other book.
Yeah, I want to touch on that, actually, that other book a little bit when we come forward. It's emotional labor. Have you thought about it? Have you clocked what you're doing? We're talking with Dr. Regina Lark, and you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominic DePrima when we come forward.
Be ready for extreme heat in your area. On days when extreme heat is expected, take action to keep your home as cool as possible. Set your air conditioner to 78 degrees. If AC isn't available, close blinds and curtains on all windows and run fans counterclockwise. Or find your nearest cooling center. Transportation help may be available. Learn more at heatreadyca.com. Brought to you by the state of California.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
To my hometown, my community. Some of you have known me my whole life. Do you notice anything different about the kids in the neighborhood? Ever paid attention? You might start with gifts, money, attention. These are signs. Child trafficking is happening right here in this town. So don't just watch through the window. Pay attention. Because the more we know, the more we'll all know to say no. Learn the signs to look for and how to help at no2sayno.com.
What's up, party people? It's your favorite MC's favorite rapper, MC Light here. And we're celebrating 50 years of hip-hop, authentically powered by Cadillac. And we're going to take it way back to where it started. It was only fitting that hip-hop began with teenagers at a back-to-school jam in the rec room of a South Bronx apartment complex by an 18-year-old brother. By the way, I'm also sure he had a Cadillac parked outside. He noticed the energy on the dance floor when he switched between two turntables, extending the beats, repeating the breaks, and never losing the rhythms. And that was the birth of hip-hop. And from that moment, it took off.
For more on how Cadillac is celebrating hip-hop's 50th, visit Cadillac.com/audacity.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
Dr. Regina Lark is my guest this morning, and you mentioned your other book. You have a couple of them actually, but you're an organizer, and on top of being being an author and all the other things that you do, didn't get a chance to look into this book, but just the title made me think I need to read it. Psychic Debris, Crowded Closets, the relationship between the stuff in your head and what's under your bed. And I actually have worked with a professional organizer here and there because, it helps. It's very helpful. But for me, I find that I can't think when there's too much junk. I'll just start throwing stuff away, and I might need some of that stuff. But I can't think when there's too much crap. Is that what you're talking about, or is there more to it than that? There's probably more to it than that.
Well, everybody has their own unique relationship to crap.
Yeah, right.
So some people believe they thrive with a lot of things around them because it feeds their creative muse.
Right.
Some people feel that I can't get anything done unless I start with a clear desk.
Right.
So it's what I talk about in the book Psychic Debris. It's really about our relationship to our stuff, to our space, to our environment, to our habits, to where we are and aren't disciplined. I look at all of this through the lens of relationships. I came up with a term, I called it the two-legged clutter. You know, who are the nefarious souls who are not lifting us and elevating us?
Right.
Yeah. You know, people in our lives that saying you can't, you don't, you never have, why bother, don't try. So that's clutter right there.
That I'm laughing because I think I'm much more sensitive to the physical clutter than the two-legged clutter. And perhaps I need to spend more time clearing out that type of clutter.
So again, it's looking around the space, we work with a lot of clients that will say, it didn't used to be this way. I wasn't raised this way.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to look at what happened along the way to make it this way. And now that we're here with a house full of clutter, in order to deal with it in a meaningful way, it's, again, making that list. Make a list of all the areas that you want to tackle. Then kind of brainstorm with yourself, how long do you think it'll take you to do the junk drawer? Just without filters, without judging, just like, I can do a junk drawer in 10 minutes. One of the reasons why I've noticed that a lot of people have a lot of clutter is they have a really lousy relationship with time, in that they don't actually know how long it takes them to do anything.
Yeah.
Tell them to time. Tell yourself it takes me 10 minutes to take a shower, and then time yourself and just see where you land.
Yeah.
So doing a minor declutter project, there's not a whole lot of emotion tied to the junk drawer. And, of course, if it's junk, why are you putting it in a drawer anyway? But that's a completely different conversation.
Right.
But, so you say 10 minutes for the junk drawer. Put it on the calendar, set a timer, and just time yourself. Take the time. You said 10 minutes. What are you doing in 10 minutes? And if you don't finish the junk drawer in 10 minutes, you've just given yourself a lot of really, really good information.
Yeah.
That you need more than 10 minutes.
I mean, but it really ties back to what we started out talking about, this idea of women's work or household management, right? Because it is invisible even to ourselves. Oh, I need 10 minutes to clean my junk drawer. I need 10 minutes, to make dinner, whatever it is. 2 hours later.
You just made a very important statement.
Yeah.
It's invisible even to ourselves.
Yeah.
That's a huge recognition and cannot be understated. So that's a big part of it. And again, and one of the reasons why I'm very clear that we have to understand how this work actually gets done, and it gets done through our executive functioning skills. We probably wouldn't have a junk drawer if we had good executive functioning skills. We probably wouldn't have a crowded closet if we stayed emotionally managed. Oh, I don't need this. I haven't worn it. And I don't think it ever looked good on me. And just putting it over in the donation pile instead of coming up with that wishful thinking. Someday it'll look good on me. We'll make someday today. Because someday and later is not on any calendar that I have ever seen.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. We're talking with Dr. Regina Lark. When we come forward, we'll have a few minutes before we hand off to Tavis Smiley. And I really want to hand off the microphone to you, Dr. Lark, and leave it to you to decide what we need to marinate on for the rest of the day. I hope you'll come back again. Seems like a multi-part conversation. Emotional labor, our topic on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
Boldly taking talk radio where it has never gone before. New vistas, new voices, new views, new visions, new victories. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we're taking public media black.
What make you? Yeah.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
You're listening to K-Drip, where we play all the best classic water-wasting hits like Sprinklers in the Rain and Leaky Faucets. They're tunes from another time because now that we face a hotter, drier future, every drop counts. Despite an extremely wet winter, keep using less water, fixing leaks, and reusing indoor water for your garden. Visit SaveOurWater.com for more ways to conserve. Up next, brushing your teeth with the water on.
K-Drip. The conversation continues right now with Dominique DePrima on First Things First.
Author and professional speaker and an entrepreneur, Dr. Regina Lark. First, tell us how to track you, keep up with all your TED Talks and books and things, and then share what you would like to leave in our brains this morning.
Well, you can Google me. Nothing ever leaves the internet, so you can find me there. And ReginaLark.com, you can find out about my books, and I've had opportunity to talk on a lot of podcasts. My TED Talk is on YouTube channel, and I've only got one, but it starts out with no bras required. and then to leave your listeners, be kind to one another, listen to one another, understand that if your partner is telling you it's too much, believe her. Believe her. If there's a lot of love in the household and kindness and caring and consideration, transparency and conversation, y'all could get through anything. I guarantee that.
Yeah, I love that you emphasize the love and compassion and kindness that we approach these conversations with, because there is this accusatory thing that you're pointing the finger at me, I'm pointing the finger at you. It's all about nagging. You know, we're positioned as nags and pests.
Well, one of the fun parts about the emotional labor book is I hired a cartoonist to show us some images of this, and one of the cartoons is a picture of a horse, a dog, and a rat. And it's nag, bitch, and shrew. Because if you disrupt the narrative, those are the names you'll be called.
Yeah. I think I've been called all. I'm not sure if I've gotten the shrew, but I think I've been called most of those. I wasn't called.
Yeah.
No, I know you weren't, but I'm just saying when certain things we try to do, you try to take charge, you try to, get everybody on point and on task.
Make it happen.
Yeah. And then that those names do come up. But I love the fact that you're saying, like, we can change the narrative and we can change the structure, because this happens not just at home, it happens at work, without pointing fingers, being accusatory, or polarizing ourselves as men and women.
Yeah. Get on the same page. Talk it out. Yeah.
Yeah, so helpful. Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you. Thanks for spending the hour with me. Want to check it out. The book is Emotional Labor, Why a Woman's Work is Never Done and What to Do About It. Dr. Regina Lark's got a couple of other books for you to check out, too, and for me to check out, reginalark.com. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we always have a lot to talk about. I want to remind you, Attorney Carrie Harper will be with me tomorrow, and we're going to get an update on that Winco case. You saw the video, the woman being thrown down by the sheriffs there, what happened in that case and what is coming up next. We'll cover that tomorrow. Ed Sanders will also join me. Tavis Smiley is up next. He's got an incredible show in store for you today. Must be Thursday. Encouraging you to follow us on all the social media, KBLA 1580, and follow me at DePrima Radio. Please like, subscribe, all the things. It makes a difference for us. I'm Dominique DePrima. History's now, and we are making it together. Until tomorrow, be intentional, be safe, be creative. One love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The Missouri Attorney General is pushing back on St. Louis Mayor African